Freddy Krueger is one of the most iconic characters in the horror industry, who instilled fear in millions of people for many years. Recently, there have been rumors about a new installment of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So let's revisit the history of the franchise about Freddy Krueger and discover some interesting facts about the film. And now, I am storyteller. I will tell you the story of Freddy Krueger. The creator of Freddy Krueger is the late Wes Craven, who conceived and developed the character of Freddy Krueger as we know him today. Wes Craven passed away on August 30th, 2015, from brain cancer. The idea for such a horrifying creation came to Wesley Craven after reading an article in the Los Angeles Times about a series of mysterious deaths that occurred during sleep. Some witnesses reported that the victims were tormented by nightmares. The name given to Freddy Krueger was not chosen randomly. It was the same name as the bully who frequently beat up Wes Craven during his school years. The infamous bladed glove was also invented by Wes Craven himself. One day, he came home and saw his pet cat scratching his living room couch with its sharp claws. And after that amusing incident, Freddy acquired one of his trademark symbols, the bladed glove. The appearance of Freddy was also chosen with purpose. Now I'm talking about his red and green sweater. Wes Craven had two reasons for this choice. Firstly, the combination of these colors was not very pleasant to the human eye. Secondly, according to the director's concept, the dark green color symbolizes Freddy Krueger's sins, while the red represents the blood of the innocent teenagers he killed. After the monster's appearance was devised, it was necessary to imbue him with behavioral elements. During the time when Freddy Krueger was created, hundreds of movies were being made where various maniacs were the main villains. Most of them were very silent, and some didn't speak at all. Wes Craven was not satisfied with this approach, and for a unique character like Freddy, they added black humor and incredible charisma to the character, which would later be embodied by the actor who played Freddy Krueger. Fred Krueger also stood out from all the maniacs in that he didn't kill his victims quickly. He enjoyed tormenting them, feeding off their fears, and only then would he take their souls for his own amusement. The last interesting fact about the creation of the character Freddy Krueger is that according to the original script, Fred Krueger was supposed to be a pedophile, but Wes Craven decided against this idea, which turned out to be a good call. After the character was conceived and the script was written, filming for the first installment of A Nightmare on Elm Street began in full swing. Well, we'll talk about the movies a little later. Right now, I'll start telling you the biography of Freddy Krueger. You know him as Freddy, but he has a full name, Frederick Charles Krueger. Frederick's entire life was shrouded in horror, starting from the moment of his conception. Back when Freddy didn't exist yet, his mother, a young nun named Amanda Krueger, worked at a psychiatric hospital due to staff oversight. She was accidentally locked inside the tower. This tower served as a shelter and prison for over 100 dangerous individuals, including psychotics, maniacs, and other mentally ill people. They carefully hid Amanda and subjected her to sexual assault. After enduring weeks of prolonged nightmare, she was eventually rescued. It turned out that she was pregnant. After enduring weeks of real-life nightmares and 9 months later, Amanda gave birth to Freddy Krueger. Her psyche eventually couldn't handle the trauma, and Amanda descended into madness. Frederick ends up in an orphanage. After a short time, he is adopted by the Underwood family, and that's when his very difficult childhood begins. The patriarch of the Underwood family, his stepfather, constantly drank and abused Fred. At school, Freddy was constantly bullied, being called the offspring of 100 maniacs. At the age of 18, Frederick kills his first human victim, who happens to be his stepfather, the head of the Underwood family. Frederick carefully concealed all the evidence, making it impossible to prove his involvement in the murder. There are short films depicting the period from Freddy's adolescence to the killing of his stepfather, which you can find online. After some time, Frederick finds work at a boiler room. He also gets married. He started a happy family life in which his daughter was born, surrounded by idyllic moments. A glimpse of the Krueger family's life can be seen in the 6 films of A Nightmare on Elm Street. At the same time, children start disappearing on Elm Street. No one understands who could be this serial maniac, but Krueger's wife, Loretta, realizes that her husband is the maniac, and she becomes the next victim. Krueger kills his wife in front of their young daughter, Catherine. Shortly afterward, local authorities begin to suspect Krueger's involvement in the murders and take Catherine to an orphanage. Frederick is arrested and stripped of his parental rights. There is a short film depicting the interrogation between Krueger and a detective. Interestingly, this film shows how the detective manages to extract a confession from Frederick. However, due to improper arrest procedures and a wrongly signed document, Frederick is released from the courtroom with all charges dropped. The parents of the murdered children took it upon themselves to seek justice. They went to the boiler room where Freddy Krueger was hiding and set him on fire, dousing the room with flammable substances. While Frederick was burning alive, he saw 3 dream demons before his death. They offered him a deal in exchange for his soul, to become an immortal being in the dream realms. The condition of this deal was that Freddy could not be killed. He would be all-powerful within his domain and could seek revenge. Krueger, without much hesitation, agrees and enters the dream world, and when the next Nightmare on Elm Street arrives, it was only a matter of time. The subsequent events are depicted in the films of A Nightmare on Elm Street series. I know that many of you have watched these movies. Many might want to revisit them, so I won't retell the plots of these films. Instead, I'll touch on them briefly and share some interesting facts. There were a total of 7 installments in the A Nightmare on Elm Street series. The most successful ones are considered to be the first and third parts. The role of Freddy Krueger was portrayed by then-unknown actor Robert Englund, who brought this character to life and left an impression in the minds of millions of people. And when the first A Nightmare on Elm Street was released, many people got to hear another signature element, Freddy's nursery rhyme. Due to numerous translations, there are multiple versions of this nursery rhyme in different languages, and you can find all the possible variations on Wikipedia. Among some interesting facts, I can also mention that the original film was shot in just 30 days. In the 6th installment of A Nightmare on Elm Street, the relationship between father and daughter is further explored, and it is in this film that Freddy Krueger's daughter makes an appearance. There, he attempts to lure his daughter to the side of evil. Will she choose him? And perhaps with the help of these powers, she may defeat her father. The concluding film is called Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Freddy Krueger doesn't enter the film universe. Instead, he enters our real world, where all the actors play themselves, including Robert Englund, Wes Craven, and others. This film performed very poorly at the box office because, as many fans claim, it ruined Freddy Krueger. His humor became very forced and clumsy, and he became excessively cruel. Towards the end of the film, when Freddy dies, he transforms into a demon, which didn't align well with his character, according to the franchise's fans' statements. If you've seen not only A Nightmare on Elm Street, but also the Friday the 13th series featuring the maniac Jason Voorhees, you should be familiar with this moment, and if you've never seen it, congratulations on discovering it. Freddy Krueger's next appearance came 10 years after the last Friday, when the film Freddy vs. Jason was released in theaters. The film depicts the confrontation between two horror industry titans. I won't retell the plot of the film, as many of you are already familiar with it. For those who haven't seen the film at all, I recommend watching it. It's quite good. I'll just note that at the end, when Jason retrieves Freddy's head from the lake and Freddy winks at us, it signifies that Freddy is not dead. There's also an alternative ending that suggests Freddy ultimately gets the upper hand against the main characters. There haven't been any official film sequels since then. However, officially, I will note that the official continuation is presented in the form of comics. This comic is called Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash here. I'll briefly touch upon the plot of this comic. Freddy Krueger learns that there is a book called the Necronomicon in the world. He retrieves this information from Jason's deep memories, where he remembers his mother having this book. Freddy realizes that obtaining the Necronomicon Ex Mortis from the universe of the Evil Dead, created by Howard Lovecraft, a renowned science fiction writer, will grant him the power to become all-powerful not only in the dream world but also in the real world. It would make him a kind of god, in order to learn the whereabouts of the Necronomicon. Freddy replaces Jason's father, raising him and, in the process, awakening paternal feelings within himself. But for these horror industry titans, eternal conflict is their destiny. Ultimately, they seemingly locate the Necronomicon and almost manage to use it. But that's when Ash Williams comes into play and he defeats Freddy, sending him into the realm of demons. The comic also introduces Freddy Krueger's daughter, who eventually aligns herself with evil. There is a moment in the comic where a passionate kiss is shown between father and daughter. Remember how they wanted to portray Freddy as a pedophile? Well, perhaps this is a reference to that original idea Wes Craven had. The ending of the comic hints that Freddy is indeed an immortal entity and cannot be killed. Furthermore, the open-ended finale suggests that a continuation is possible. That concludes the official story of the original Freddy, but there are a few more interesting facts that I'd like to share with you. In 2010, a remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street was released, with the role of Freddy Krueger portrayed by Jackie Earle Haley. The film performed poorly at the box office and received negative reviews from both critics and fans of the franchise, essentially burying the film. The failures of this movie began right from the start. Freddy Krueger's makeup was horrendous, lacking charisma and the signature stylized killings. The film's portrayal of Freddy as a pedophile working at a daycare instead of the boiler room was another aspect that contributed to its demise. The only aspect worth praising in this film is its final scene, which suggests that Freddy Krueger cannot be killed. The character Freddy Krueger has also appeared in many gaming universes. The most popular among them are to fighting games Mortal Kombat 9, where Freddy Krueger is available as a downloadable paid add-on, and Terrordrome, a fighting game featuring the most iconic horror movie characters. In order to expand the franchise, books based on A Nightmare on Elm Street were also released. Naturally, they gained popularity among fans, and as for regular readers, I honestly can't say anything. Many companies also acquired rights to create collectible figures based on A Nightmare on Elm Street, and according to financial statistics, the turnover of Freddy Krueger collectible figures amounts to millions of dollars. It's a profitable business, I must say. With that, horror enthusiasts, I will conclude. I have shared everything I know about Freddy Krueger. I hope I have enhanced your understanding of this character with new knowledge and facts. Now, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and comment on the character from cult horror movies you would like to see in my next video. Wishing you all the frightful best.